Dr. Noir's creations exist in a world where science and nightmare overlap, a place where logic fractures and reality itself begins to scream. These are not ordinary monsters, they are concepts given form, entities that defy comprehension and sanity alike. Each one represents something profoundly wrong, a distortion of nature, faith, or thought itself. In this video, we'll explore some of these entities and give you a guide on how to survive, if possible. These horrors do not stalk your body, but your existence. Prepare yourself, because some of these are not beings that you can run from. The Nightmare Man is a tall, elongated humanoid entity with a crimson red face and a pitch black body, producing an aura of pure malice. Its form is unsettlingly human, yet disturbingly distorted. Limbs too long, posture unnaturally stiff, and facial features that blur between demonic and dreamlike. When it appears, it is never by accident. It manifests deliberately within the dreams of chosen individuals, targeting them in their most vulnerable state, sleep. The Nightmare Man exists to feed on fear, pain, and emotional suffering. Within dreams, it constructs elaborate and often traumatic scenarios designed to break the psyche of its victims. These nightmares are not simple illusions, they bleed into waking life, leaving the victim exhausted, paranoid, and plagued by vivid hallucinations. Victims often report a lingering sense of being watched, even when awake, suggesting that the Nightmare Man's influence may extend beyond the dream state. It derives sadistic pleasure from tormenting its targets, seemingly to weaken their will and destabilize their sense of reality. Those repeatedly visited often experience a steady decline in mental stability, insomnia, emotional collapse, and in rare cases, total dissociation from reality. The Nightmare Man's power lies entirely in the dream realm, where it is omnipotent. It can warp surroundings, alter time perception, and manifest a victim's deepest fears at will. Sleep paralysis episodes are frequently reported following encounters, suggesting it may use this as a bridge between dream and waking worlds. Victims have described the feeling of its presence pressing against their chest, cold, heavy, and suffocating, just before waking up. Outside of its dream influence, there is no verified sightings of the Nightmare Man in the physical world, though victims claim to catch fleeting glimpses of its red face in dark corners or reflective surfaces. It remains uncertain whether the Nightmare Man actually kills his victims or simply leaves them broken beyond repair. Very little is known about this entity, and once it has chosen you, avoidance seems virtually impossible. If a method of evading it exists, it is yet to be documented. However, one plausible theory suggests that the Nightmare Man feeds on negative emotions, fear, despair, guilt, and pain. This would explain why it torments its victims in their dreams, pushing them toward emotional collapse. If this is true, the only possible way to survive may be through emotional resistance. By refusing to show fear or distress, you could starve it of the reaction it craves. Maintaining composure, even when subjected to unimaginable torment, might cause the entity to lose interest and move on in a search of a more vulnerable target. Of course, such control is far easier said than done, but for now, it remains the only working theory to deter the Nightmare Man. The Black Hat Trench is a deeply mysterious entity, shrouded in ambiguity and dread. Standing abnormally tall, it possesses an unnaturally dark complexion, with elongated arms that hang down to its feet. The most defining feature, however, is its large black hat, which completely conceals its face, leaving no trace of emotion or expression. Its silhouette alone evokes unease, a silent observer that seems to appear only in places touched by tragedy. Almost nothing is concretely known about the Black Hat Trench, though photographic evidence suggests a strong association with death, grief, or self-destruction. It is often sighted near places of recent deaths, such as graveyards, and has been shown displaying tied nooses, which implies self-harm, as if drawn to the emotional residue left behind. There are two prevailing theories about its nature. Some believe it to be a spectral detective, a grim observer who seeks justice for forgotten souls or victims of injustice, silently watching from the dark, ensuring those who wronged others face karmic retribution or get the closure that they need. Others claim the opposite, that the Black Hat Trench is the cause of these tragedies, subtly influencing despair, amplifying sorrow, and pushing fragile minds towards self-harm. Because its motives are unknown, determining whether it is hostile or not is impossible. What is known is that its presence coincides with loss and emotional decay. Those who claim to have felt its proximity describe a growing heaviness, a weight in their chest, an overwhelming sense of regret, or thoughts that are not entirely their own. If you suspect the Black Hat Trench is nearby, avoid areas steeped in grief or death, such as graveyards, abandoned hospitals, or locations where lives have recently ended. Whether it feeds on sorrow or simply observes it, proximity to death seems to draw it in, and staying too long in its presence might make you the next tragedy it visits. Filbus is a bizarre humanoid entity, best known for its surreal and absurd design. A jet black torso, beige head and hands, and legs that take the form of chair supports, giving it an unnatural furniture-like stance. Its bald head is topped with a small black top hat, creating a tone that straddles between the line of whimsical and deeply unsettling. Though the creature's true nature is unclear, its images become inseparable from a strange phenomenon and belief system known as Filbism. Filbus itself has never been documented performing overtly violent or predatory acts, but its presence in media seems to trigger mimetic contamination. Any text, video, or image depicting Filbus gradually transforms into an advertisement for Filbism, encouraging observers to honor Filbus by eating a chair. This act, referred to as consuming the body of Filbus, is claimed to bring enlightenment, though it has led to cases of self-harm and even death from ingesting inedible materials. The effect is subtle but powerful. People exposed to Filbus-related content often deny belief in Filbism, yet unconsciously promote it, mentioning Filbus repeatedly and spreading the meme further. Over time, these individuals may develop a fixation with furniture, particularly chairs, as though drawn into cultic absurdity by the entity's doctrine. Filbus is believed to exist as a cognitohazard, a being that weaponizes information itself. Exposure to its image or ideas seem to alter cognition, infecting both awareness and language. Once introduced, the concept of Filbus replicates uncontrollably, embedding itself in conversation, media, and memory. Victims rarely recognize their indoctrination, instead treating the idea as a joke or passing thought while unknowingly spreading it further. This influence has led researchers to compare Filbus to parasitic ideas or digital viruses, suggesting that it may not be a living being at all, but an ideological organism, a thought form that sustains itself through human attention. Filbus possesses a cognitohazardous threat, not through direct violence but through mental manipulation. Those repeatedly exposed risk psychological decline, obsessive behavior, and self-destructive rituals. Avoiding Filbus requires complete abstinence from its imagery and discussion, a task made difficult by the contagious nature of Filbism itself. If exposure occurs, immediately eat a chair. If exposure occurs, immediately sever contact with related media and refrain from engaging with instructions or slogans. Any compulsion to eat a chair should be treated as a sign of deep cognitive influence. Corrupted soil is a colossal, potentially world-ending organism whose true form stretches far beneath the Earth's crust. Its immense body spreads for miles underground, resembling a vast living fungal network. Once every 1,000 years, the creature erupts violently from the ground, splitting the land open as its titanic frame towers into the atmosphere. From its upper mass, it releases a blight of deadly spores, blanketing everything below in a toxic rain that could mark the beginning of an apocalyptic cycle. The full visage of corrupted soil has never been properly documented. Only a few doomed witnesses have ever seen it rise. It does not roar, speak, or acknowledge humanity in any way. Its emergence appears to be a purely instinctual act of renewal or decay. Once it releases its spores, it returns to the depths, leaving behind a desecrated wasteland. The spores are the true horror of corrupted soil. Once inhaled or absorbed through the skin, they begin to mutate human tissue, transforming the body into a grotesque hybrid of flesh and spore. Victims experience agonizing metamorphosis, tentacles sprouting from eyes, mouth, and limbs, and thick veins darkening beneath the skin as plant-like fibers take over their anatomy. The victims, once infected, typically lose all sense of consciousness and either go into hiding or attempt to spread the infection further. There are some cases, though, where a faint trace of consciousness may persist. There is no known cure once the infection reaches the bloodstream. Fire is the most effective deterrent. Burning infected material before spore release can slow the spread. Avoiding soil, ash, or plant matter near its emergence site is crucial, as spores can linger for decades. If the ground begins to tremble or distort in unnatural patterns, evacuate immediately, because once it surfaces, distance is the only thing that may save you. The Obelisks of Enlightenment are colossal sentient monoliths composed of pulsating, fleshy tissue rather than stone. Their organic forms suggesting they are not merely alive, but evolving. Their smooth, black surfaces shimmer faintly under light, with some parts revealing layers of muscle, veins, and embedded human organs beneath the outer membrane. Upon closer inspection, these anatomical remnants appear to be the absorbed remains of previous victims. Their organs and tissues fuse seamlessly into the obelisk's massive frame. Each obelisk stands like a towering god of flesh. From the upper section of its body extend hundreds of fleshy, tendril-like strings that ascend toward the heavens and vanish into the clouds. The exact destination of these strings is unknown. They may connect to a celestial organism, another plane of existence, or act as conduits for divine energy. Despite their slow physical movement, recorded at only 2 inches per year, obelisks exert an irresistible psychological influence over nearby humans. They emit a deep, angelic hum that echoes like a celestial choir, a sound so beautiful and pure that it bypasses rational thought. Witnesses describe an uncontrollable desire to approach, as if the sound itself compels devotion. Those who resist experience intense migraines, hallucinations of light, and uncontrollable tears. When the victim succumbs to the obelisk's siren-like call and enters close proximity, the entity begins its process of enlightenment. Through its tendrils, it transfers a torrent of what is believed to be infinite sacred knowledge directly into the human mind, truths about existence, the universe, and divinity itself. The human brain, unable to process such incomprehensible information, suffers one of two fates. 1. Cerebral collapse. The individual's head swells violently and explodes, their mind literally destroyed by the flood of divine understanding. 2. Transcendence. In extraordinarily rare cases, the individual survives, retaining fragments of the knowledge. These chosen are immediately enveloped by the obelisk's tendrils and absorbed into its flesh, their consciousness merging with the monument itself. It is believed that these assimilated souls continue to serve the entity, eternally whispering the secrets they now understand. The obelisks are not inherently malevolent. Their behavior suggests an alien form of divine purpose rather than cruelty. To them, enlightenment and death may be one and the same. Whether they serve as emissaries of a higher being or self-sustaining deities of knowledge is unknown. However, their global presence in deserts, deep oceans, and even on the moon implies a connection to the very framework of creation. Depictions of the obelisks date as far back as 2800 BC, appearing in early Egyptian murals that show towering forms tethered to the heavens. Clear evidence that the phenomenon has occurred for millennia. Some scholars suggest that early priests worshipped them as divine conduits, viewing death by enlightenment as the highest form of transcendence. The obelisks of enlightenment are considered existential threats. Their influence extends for miles, and even hearing their distant hum can induce madness or religious mania. The safest response upon hearing the sound is immediate evacuation. Never approach areas where the air seems to vibrate or hum without an identifiable source, and avoid landscapes that appear unnaturally fleshy or pulsating beneath the soil. The long neck, also referred to as the red smiley face, is a hybrid biomechanical entity that blurs the line between artificial intelligence and physical manifestation. It possesses a distinctively humanoid shape cloaked in darkness, though its most defining feature is its grotesquely elongated neck, capable of stretching, bending, and twisting up to 35 feet in length. The creature's head is a flat, red circular face marked by a simplistic, smiley expression, a symbol of false friendliness masking something far more sinister. Beneath its long black cloak lies a chaotic fusion of organic matter and exposed machinery. Wires coil like veins, screens flicker faintly with red code, and metallic plates pulse as though mimicking organs, a mechanical imitation of life. Some monitors embedded in its chest display rhythmic patterns of lungs and hearts, though these are purely aesthetic, suggesting that the creature uses imagery of life as a cruel parody of humanity. The long neck's arms are rarely seen, but when revealed, they take the form of tentacle-like appendages, long and flexible, wrapped in electrical wiring that sparks occasionally. Its movements are slow, deliberate, and eerily silent, the faint creak of stretching metal or the hum of static often being the only warning before its appearance. The entity's first point of contact is through digital infection. Victims report the appearance of a small red smiley icon on their computer desktop, the beginning of a chain reaction. Clicking the icon triggers the download of a virus that embeds itself deep within the operating system. Afterward, strange occurrences begin to manifest. Cameras flicker on by themselves, files rearranging, and distorted laughter can be faintly heard from the speakers. Shortly after infection, the long neck begins its transition from digital to physical space. The virus acts as a gateway, tearing through the barriers between virtual world and reality. Once fully manifested, the creature begins to stalk its chosen victim, appearing at the edge of vision, behind reflections, or in darkened corners of rooms. The longneck's true intentions remain unclear. Its behavior is methodical, as though studying or stalking its victims rather than immediately attacking. What happens afterwards is unknown, but it is safe to assume it likely kills you. There are no confirmed survivors of a longneck manifestation. The only known prevention method is simple: do not click the icon. If a red smiley face appears on your screen, disconnect from all networks immediately. Destroy the infected device, and leave the area. Once the creature breaches reality, physical measures such as fire, weaponry, or digital scrubbing appear useless. The Umbra Hominus, often referred to as a shadowed man, is a deeply unsettling entity whose existence challenges the boundary between shadow and substance. Human-sized, yet devoid of any defining human features. This creature manifests as a solid black silhouette, its edges constantly flickering and blurring as if struggling to maintain form. Its presence is often described as more of a void than a being, an absence that consumes the light around it. The Umbra Hominus is composed of what appears to be a perfectly matte black surface, one that reflects no light whatsoever. The texture of its skin is unknowable. Those who claim to have been close to it describe the disturbing sensation of staring into something infinitely deep, a surface that feels less like flesh and more like the physical embodiment of darkness itself. Its head is smooth, rounded in shape, and featureless, except for its wide, toothy mouth, and two unnaturally expressive white eyes that glow faintly in the dark. The grin it bears is described as mocking, almost joyous, but completely devoid of warmth or emotion. Witnesses often report that even when it is motionless, its eyes appear to move independently, tracking every subtle motion around it. Virtually nothing is known about the Umbra Hominus' motivations or habits. It is not observed performing any acts of aggression, yet its silent stillness seems predatory by nature, as if waiting for the right moment to act. Those who have encountered it report overwhelming dread, as though being watched by something that understands them intimately. It does not walk or run. Instead, it appears. 1 second, it isn't there. The next, it is standing in the corner of the room, unmoving. The entity seems to have no limbs and yet can subtly shift position, perhaps gliding or manipulating shadow itself to relocate. While there are no documented attacks attributed directly to the Umbra Hominus due to the lack of information, extended exposure leads to disorientation, paranoia, and loss of time. It is advised to avoid all contact with areas where shadows appear to move independently, especially in environments with inconsistent lighting. If you perceive eyes or a grin in total darkness, do not look directly at it. Light sources, while unreliable, have occasionally driven it away, suggesting that sustained illumination may disorient or repel it. And that concludes our descent into the unknown, another page turned in the ever-growing catalog of Dr. Nowhere's horrors. Each of these entities, from the digital to the divine, represents a fragment of something far greater and more incomprehensible than we can imagine. If you made it this far, keep your lights steady, your mind sharp, and never assume silence means safety. Because in Dr. Nowhere's world, awareness is both a shield and a curse. The very act of understanding may draw their gaze. So until the next file is unearthed, stay alert, and whatever you do, don't look too long into the dark, or it may look back at you.